Welcome back to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. This is what's been going on in China in the past 24 hours. China's most important move is a carefully layered retaliation package aimed at U.S. technology restrictions. Beijing barred Chinese dealings with 7 U.S. entities, tightened case by case reviews for controlled drones, and related components headed to the United States, suspended U.S. based agencies from conducting required factory inspections, and opened a national security investigation into imported office equipment. This is pressure applied through several regulators at once. The drone measure is especially important because it stops short of a blanket ban. Beijing is preserving discretion over which shipments move, which companies wait, and where the cost of uncertainty lands. That creates leverage without the immediate economic shock of a total cutoff. The official description called the response restrained while reserving the right to do more. That combination captures the strategy. Impose friction now, keep the bigger hammer visible, and make foreign companies calculate the risk of the next round. This regulatory toolkit is becoming a central feature of Chinese economic statecraft. Export licensing, entity restrictions, certification rules, and security reviews can each appear technical. Used together, they shape market access and supply chains while giving leaders room to calibrate escalation. Companies face a political problem disguised as a compliance problem because routine transactions can suddenly become bargaining chips in a contest between governments. That same action-reaction cycle is accelerating around Japan and Taiwan. Japan's new defense white paper calls China its greatest strategic challenge and says the military balance around Taiwan is shifting quickly in Beijing's favor. China lodged a formal protest, described Taiwan as an internal matter, and accused Tokyo of inflating threats to justify military expansion. Japan, meanwhile, presents defense industry and advanced weapons investment as contributors to national prosperity. Each side is now using the other's response as evidence. Japanese concern about Chinese military activity supports a larger long-range strike and unmanned force posture. Chinese officials then point to that buildup as proof that Japanese militarism is returning. The cycle compresses political decision time around Taiwan, where exercises and procurement programs are increasingly interpreted as signals of hostile intent, rather than routine planning. The danger lies in how quickly ordinary preparation can be absorbed into an escalation narrative. Taiwan's Hankuang exercise shows what practical preparation looks like underneath that messaging contest. The 10-day live force phase is testing unexpected scenarios: decentralized command, communications disruption, relocation of weapons production, convoy protection, and cooperation with civilian industry. Commanders are using backbriefs that require subordinates to explain how they will execute orders. That matters because a plan only survives a communications failure when the people carrying it out understand the intent. The exercise is also testing temporary mobile internet degradation and the movement of production away from threatened facilities. Taiwan's central defense problem is continuity under blockade and missile attack. Relocatable industry, resilient communications, protected resupply, and commanders able to act without constant direction extend the time available for the government to organize defense and receive external support. The useful result is not a perfect drill. It is a clear map of what breaks before a crisis begins. Japan is moving along a parallel track by emphasizing combat drones, civilian technology, and a defense industry that can scale. That convergence narrows the line between commercial capacity and military resilience. Testing laboratories, software interfaces, component suppliers, and factory relocation plans now influence deterrence alongside ships, aircraft, and missiles. The industrial base is becoming part of the operating concept. Beijing's internal control campaign is reaching the same strategic sectors. A court sentenced former defense industry regulator Zhang Yanhua to 10 years for bribery and influence peddling. The conduct involved project approvals, investments, contracts, and more than 55 million yuan in payments across his government service and retirement. Because Zhang worked inside the administration responsible for science, technology, and industry for national defense, this case reaches beyond ordinary graft. The sentence tells officials that strategically favored sectors remain subject to political discipline. It may improve compliance and expose corrupt networks. Repeated purges can also slow approvals and encourage administrators to avoid decisions that could later be reinterpreted. The next indicator is whether investigators move outward from Zhang toward linked officials or companies. One conviction is a warning. A chain of cases would show a wider effort to rewire the sector. Technology controls are producing another complicated result. Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix have reportedly tested etching equipment made by China's AMEC at plants in China as a hedge against tighter U.S. restrictions. Tests were said to have continued for roughly 2 years without a deployment decision. Samsung denied testing AMEC tools for its China factory, so that specific claim remains contested. The broader incentive still matters. Restrictions on servicing or supplying foreign-owned fabrication plants inside China encourage those operators to qualify domestic tools. Export controls can slow access to advanced equipment while opening doors for Chinese suppliers that previously struggled to enter established production lines. The decisive question is whether substitution stays concentrated in mature processes or helps domestic vendors climb into more advanced nodes. That is where a control designed to preserve a technology gap can begin creating its own counterpressure. Taken together, today's stories show economic security, military resilience, industrial discipline, and regional deterrence merging into one policy system. Beijing can retaliate through regulation, protect favored industries through political control, and use foreign restrictions to accelerate local substitution. Taiwan and Japan are also mobilizing civilian technology and production for defense. Everyone is pulling commercial capacity closer to national security planning. Watch the implementation details. Case-by-case drone reviews could become routine approvals, targeted delays, or a quiet embargo. Chinese military activity during Han Kuang will show whether Beijing separates signaling from operational escalation. Any AMSC deployment by a foreign memory producer would clarify the substitution trend, while follow-on Zhang cases would reveal the depth of the defense sector cleanup. The big picture is controlled competition with more moving parts, more civilian exposure, and less room to treat trade, technology, and military preparedness as separate arenas. Thanks for listening. The headlines will keep coming, so we'll keep sorting signal from noise. Find the daily written brief at restrictedhandling.substack.com, and we'll be back with more tomorrow.